Hey guys, it's Ty with Ty the Dog Guy on the Daily here. And if you're watching the video portion, you can see I'm training a little girl here, named Luna, and she's in for our boot camp. And as I was working with her, I realized we probably work with, sit, all the way, there you go, good girl. We probably work with 80% medium to bigger dogs and maybe 20% smaller dogs. In fact, to the point where, people that follow us on our Facebook page or on our website will often ask questions like, hey, do you guys even train little dogs? Because they see pictures of medium and big dogs all the time. And of course we do. It's just we get so many fewer people interested in little dogs. Come on, let's do a little walk here. And I think there's a few reasons for that. I think one of the reasons is that when little dogs do things wrong, sit, there we go. When little dogs do things wrong, it's easier to overlook it, right? If a little dog, good girl. If a little dog is jumping on you, that's different than a 100-pound dog jumping on you. If a little dog pooped in your house, that's a little bit different than an 80-pound German Shepherd pooping in your house. And so I think a lot of people tend to overlook these things when it comes to training their dogs, but I worry that it does a huge disservice to these guys. Because I think inherently little dogs have a little bit harder time in the world because everything is so much bigger than them. If you're an 80-pound dog, for example, there's a lot of things that are pretty similar. You're on par with a chair, a kid, you come up to people's waists. You're somewhat as big as things that, are in a human world. Whereas if you're, a little 15-pound dog like this, you're not. You're really small, and that leads to a lot of fear issues that we see. Come on. That we often see with little guys. Come on, little girl. And so I think a lot of little dogs are more prone to these fear issues because the way that they experience the world ends up being so much more different and a little bit more scary, and that becomes an issue. And so I almost think it's more important to train these little guys because they need more navigation in the world. Come on, sit. All the way, sit. There you go. They need more navigation in the world than the average dog. What a good puppy. And so there's a few things that we always try to recommend away from people when they are, when they've got little dogs. One is this constant desire to hold them. When you're constantly holding little dogs, you often will give them this complex because they've got this constant, this touch, this help. And so they have this constant security blanket such that when they don't have that, suddenly they feel very vulnerable, very naked, very afraid. Sit. All the way. Sit. They feel very naked and afraid. Sit. She doesn't want to sit on the concrete here. Sit. There you go. Let me help you. There you go. Okay, let's walk. They'll often feel very naked and afraid when they, when they're not being held. Or when they are being held, they often feel like empowered. And so how many of you have been like up to somebody carrying a Chihuahua or a Yorkie and, the owner is holding it, the dog's like flipping out, trying to attack and growling at everything and things like that. It's very common, right? Because the dog's feeling empowered. So we try to recommend away from that, from constantly having to hold your dog. It doesn't mean don't hold your dog. It just means be careful about how much you actually do hold your dog and where and when, and notice, the emotional state that it puts your dog in. Don't contribute to that. Another thing we recommend is really being careful with kids. Kids and small dogs is often a recipe for a kid getting bit in the face or the rear end, because small dogs are on their level and they're constantly approaching, and it becomes terrifying for a lot of little dogs. And so you've got to watch out and be careful when it comes to these little guys and making sure that kids aren't on accident abusing them. And when I say on accident, I mean they're not even trying to, they're just trying to like interact and stuff, but it ends up being, abusive or terrifying for the dog. And so, there's a million other little things, but everything really boils down to they need to learn how to walk on a leash just as well as a big dog. Just because they pull and it's not that big of a deal, leash pulling is a mental error, not just a physical error where the dog's pulling you, it's a mental error. So little dogs need to learn how to walk properly on a leash. They need to learn how to come. They need to learn how to go to a bed and stay put for 10 or 15 minutes or an hour or whatever. They need to learn the exact same rules. And in addition, we need to make sure that things that are additionally scary to them, kids, holding them, stuff like that, that we avoid doing that. And in so doing, we have happier little dogs. Huh, puppy? Come on, Luna. But yeah, so watch that with your little dogs. Yes, we do train little dogs. Less of them, but I'm hoping that it's more, because I sure like these little guys. They're fun. You know, they're fun little trainers.